So just a note that before you watch this video, you should have watched the TEDx talk on video, The Danger of a Single Story. You should have also listened to the podcast Throughline, the episode When Things Fall Apart. So if you haven't done that yet, hit pause on this video, go watch those, listen to them, take notes, and wait to go through this video once you've got that done. So an overview of what we're going to be doing in this video, I'll go through a few reminders, then we're going to have an in-depth discussion of critical thinking, what that is, since this class is a critical thinking class, and we're going to talk about some things that make it difficult for us to actually be critical thinkers, both as humans generally and then individually, some of our own specific kinds of impulses or experiences that make it difficult for us to become critical thinkers. And then I will go over some of the homework at the end of the video. Okay, so this is a critical thinking class, and the majority of you are here because you need to have a critical thinking general education class to graduate. Some of you are here because you are international study majors, and to you international study majors or minors or people who are in affiliated degree programs, welcome in particular. It's great to have you here. But all of us need to become critical thinkers, and it's a basic part of being educated, which is what we're all attempting to do by being here at the university getting a degree for ourselves. So what exactly is critical thinking? Critical thinking, in this quote by Edward M. Glaser, is, I think, to my mind, really well explicated. He says, quote, "Critical thinking is the analysis of available facts, evidence, observations, and arguments in order to form a judgment by the application of rational, skeptical, and unbiased analyses and evaluation." So a couple of important components of this definition. You notice that critical thinking requires the elements of access to real facts, access also to facts can be also evidence and observations. A variety of things count as facts, or they also count as, all of them count as forms of data. You need all of that, and you need then to be able to go through the process of analyzing those facts. But a really important aspect to critical thinking is ultimately coming up with some conclusion, some opinion, some final decision about what you think based on your analysis of the facts and evidence and observations. So very often when I ask students, what is critical thinking? They say nice things like critical thinking is to think deeply about something, to go beyond the surface. It's true. They also say things like it's to keep an open mind. It's to stay, to not be judgmental, to keep your doors open. Also true. But importantly, it is a cycle of those things. So to stay open to a point, but once you have analyzed the available and important information, the facts of the matter, critical thinking actually does come up with a conclusion, an idea, an opinion, a stance, a truth. You come to truth through the process of critical thinking. So there is a judgment in the sense that you actually do ultimately judge the facts for what you think they are. But once you've made that judgment, as I'll talk later in the video, it's really important to keep an open door policy to new information, new possibilities, new observations that could potentially change your conclusion. So you make a conclusion or a judgment, but you always know that you may be, in fact, revisiting that at some point in the future. This is critical thinking. It's difficult for all of us to, as humans, be critical thinkers, and it is a skill set that we have to be constantly practicing and constantly thinking about, aware of, and attempting to improve on and expand on. So why is that? Why aren't we all naturally just critical thinkers? I'm going to go through a few of the things that make it difficult for us to think critically. The terms I'm going to introduce you to right here are motivated reasoning, and there's two types that I'm interested in: egocentric motivated reasoning, sociocentric motivated reasoning. Then negativity bias, availability bias, and confirmation bias. So I'll go through each of these one by one and give you a definition. Motivated reasoning is a form of argumentation and analysis that purports to be logical, but in fact is highly driven by some personal or group goals that cloud your thinking. So these goals can be egocentric in the sense that they can be about your own personal needs, desires, ambitions, motivations, interests, past experiences. All of these sorts of things can cloud your judgment and make it difficult for you to see the truth because you're so focused on what it is that you either believe or what it is you want to accomplish or what is good for you that you oftentimes will dismiss information that doesn't help that be true or be right. So egocentrism is all about your own goals and desires, having that cloud your judgment. Sociocentric problems with motivated reasoning are about the influence of the desires or needs of a large social group or a small social group as well. So that you personally can have your own logic molded and driven and complicated by what your social group has taught you to believe, has taught you to value in ways that can actually blur your vision about what is true, right, and good in the world, objectively speaking. All right, moving on. Negativity bias. This one is something that we all experience on a daily basis when we open our phones. We'll talk a lot about this semester. Negativity bias is our psychological tendency as humans to hyperfixate on negative information, particularly information that's negative that could have some potential harm for us, or negative information that is scary, information that is about our sense of security. So that is, if you think about that, think about this as what we were like hundreds of thousands of years ago as humans, 100,000 years ago as humans, standing on like a savanna plain or out on a field someplace, hunting, gathering, and we're scanning that field for the things that we want to go and collect, but we're also scanning it for potential predators. And as we come across information, the information that is potentially about something dangerous to us is going to capture our brains and hold us and make us fixate on it much more than any other information. So any information that is, again, about something that could harm us or that could be dangerous for us, that information takes precedent in our brain, and other information that could be potentially also useful and important gets pushed to the side, and we don't take that other information into account when we're hyperfixating on the thing that we feel threatened by. This, of course, as a feature of our human psychology, this, of course, makes a lot of sense evolutionarily in the past when we were facing daily dangers from predators or from other physical possibilities that could damage us and kill us. It makes sense that our brains would hyperfixate on negative things. But in an era and in a place where we are largely safe, obviously there are some things that would make us unsafe, but by and large we're not running into predators on a daily basis. Negativity bias actually can make it difficult for us to focus on information that's not about things that make us scared. So negativity bias is our tendency to go straight to the most scary and the most sort of shocking information and to fixate on that to the detriment of other information that's out there. This tendency gets played on by the algorithms in our social media like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, etc. The algorithms know that that scary information grabs our attention better, and so it feeds us, feeds on our negativity bias and feeds us scary information in order to hold our attention. Availability bias. Availability bias is our psychological tendency as humans to come up with explanations for things that are easily available to us. And they might be easily available to us because we have heard them a lot. We've heard them over and over again in our lives in the form of stories, in the form of television, in the form of movies, in the form of books, in the form of things we tell each other as family members or as neighbors. So stories that we hear over and over again, or something that we saw or happened to us recently, or something that is really emotionally charged for us individually. So availability bias is essentially to slap on a story that you've already heard onto some new information in ways that are inaccurate, don't fully account for all the information that's there. And if you think about the two assignments for this video, the talk by Chimamanda Adichie, her discussion of the danger of a single story is basically a kind of availability bias. If we just hear one story over and over again, we're always going to assume that that story can account for whatever it is we are experiencing or coming up against in the world. So the danger of a single story is a form of availability bias. So stereotypes fall into availability bias. We jump to those, grab onto those things that we're used to hearing a lot or seeing a lot as explanations for new things that we encounter in ways that are very often inaccurate. Availability bias is, I think, well illustrated by the idea that we have that as talked about in the podcast Throughline, the idea that we have that humans are essentially inherently selfish and that they have some sort of raging beast inside, and if they don't have that controlled by some outward force like the state, then they will be evil. What is called veneer theory, which we'll hear about a lot this semester. So availability bias was illustrated really well in both of the assignments for today. Okay, confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is our psychological tendency to basically go through the world with a filter. This is kind of like having glasses that filter out some things and let in other things so that you're only able to see part of what's actually there. So if you are filtering out information that doesn't comport with, agree with, support what you already believe, but you are allowing in information that does comport with, support, agree with what you already believe, that is confirmation bias. So it's basically filtering out all information that doesn't confirm what you already believe. Confirmation bias is really common. All of us do this a lot, all of the time. All of us are very prone to this because our beliefs are so strongly motivating for the way we live our lives, and it gets disorienting and a little nerve-wracking when information that would disconfirm what we believe hits us. And it's oftentimes just easier to ignore that information that disconfirms what we believe than it is to actually take it into account, and reconfigure what we believe. So confirmation bias is a very human trait. It is something we are all doing all the time, and something you, I hope, will become more and more aware of in yourself over the course of the semester. So what is it that I want for you as a critical thinker this semester? What is it that I'm hoping you will become, and what should you be working on? Critical thinking, I imagine to be a way of being in the world, not just a one-off logical analysis of some facts you found, but rather a way of being that is open to high quality information, that rejects low quality information, that knows how to differentiate between high quality and low quality information, that is constantly reflecting on your assumptions, what you believe, is constantly thinking about what needs to be reconfigured in your beliefs, that has strong logic, and the skills of logical analysis to be able to think through the data, information, and observations that you collect as you live your life, and that always, as I said in the beginning, keeps the door open. So is always strategically uncertain about one's own beliefs. So you always have to have conclusions based on quality information and good logical analysis, but you should also always be aware of the fact that you may not have all of the information yet, and that you need to constantly be open to and accepting of information that you may not yet be aware of. So critical thinking, as a way of being, is to live your life thinking all of the time, doing the hard work of thinking, reanalyzing yourself and your beliefs, and being constantly ready to reorient your beliefs strategically, keeping the door open for new information. So what are the standards by which we can judge how good an expression of critical thinking is in the form of ideas and writing of ideas? So here are specific kinds of standards we can measure critical thinking by. How clear is the idea or the writing? How precise and specific and detailed is it? How accurate is it? How relevant is it to the topic at hand? How deep does it go into the information that is available? How broad is it? Now, you can't be fully all-encompassing and also in going into great depth in any idea or in any writing, but having some balance of breadth and depth is ideal. How strong is the logical argumentation? How important is this thing that you are trying to prove, or this idea that you're trying to vet? And finally, is this idea free from your own personal egocentrism, your personal sociocentrism, all of the kinds of biases that I just talked about? So these are the ways in which I will be judging your writing in exams across the course of the semester, the clarity, the precision, the accuracy, the relevance, depth and breadth, how good your logic is, how significant what you're saying is in relationship to the prompt, and ultimately how unbiased or biased is what you're saying based on the available information.